Right, so Mick Lynch, a hero to so many in his uncompromising, acid-tongued, calm and collected evisceration of dishonest politicians and media performers alike, has become more of a zero to them in light of his comments aimed at, frankly, all of us who won't back a Keir Starmer-led government at the next election, telling us, in fact, to grow up and vote for Starmer anyway. Well, I'm afraid, Mr Lynch, that the answer to that is a resounding and emphatic no from me, because whilst you might think any Labour-led government, including a Starmer-led one at that, will be an improvement on the Tories, a matter of debate in my opinion, but even if you are right, with that improvement being so marginal, it'd be a vote for the lesser of two evils. And that's still evil, still not good enough. And after decades of failing governance, failing services, the vast majority of people becoming ever more poor, for a trade union leader to advocate such a thing, it's not just bad, it's utterly insulting. And for once it is Mick Lynch himself getting bodied for his comments. Right, so RMT trade union boss Mick Lynch is usually someone who makes the news for having handed some politician or other their backside for saying something utterly tone-deaf, tin-eared and stupid. But unfortunately on this occasion it's Lynch himself copping the flak, and as someone who feels it is so important that people have an idea of the sort of appalling individual that Keir Starmer is in the content I make, and the frankly terrifying prospect of him leading this country, for Lynch to come out with a narrative to people of grow up and vote Starmer is really disappointing. Now, to be charitable to Lynch, his reasoning is that his number one priority apparently is getting the Tories out, and this is a narrative so many on social media certainly carry, and good Lord, I get that sentiment. Certainly we all want to see the Tories out, but I want something better than a Tory party B team to replace it. I don't want another version of them. I don't want another party who will do all the same things they have already been doing, coming in and carrying on as if nothing's changed, because that isn't getting the Tories out, is it? Show me the difference between Labour and the Tories right now, other than Labour's leader arguably lies even more than the Tory leader does. That, of course, is a whole other factor to this. Why, Mick Lynch, are you asking us to place our trust and give our vote to somebody who cannot lie straight in bed, lies like a rug, has a list of lies to his name longer than Mr Tickle's arms? Do you actually trust him yourself, Mick? Because you're asking us to, aren't you? Now, there will be some who will say, well, Lynch is just being a pragmatist. He's just being matter-of-fact about such things. If his number one priority is to just get the Tories out, knowing that under first past the post we'll either have the Tories or Labour, then he will back Labour because it is the default position, and that is therefore the route we have to all go, and that's being grown up. I'm sure the James O'Briens of this world would agree with that, but I won't. First past the post has had its day. It is fundamentally an undemocratic, unfair system now. But because it only ever delivers Tory or Labour governments, it is never going to be changed by either a Tory or a Labour government because it suits them. Not unless they are forced to agree to it as part of some coalition agreement because they can't form a majority, which is actually the best outcome of the general election this time around we can probably hope for. Lynch might consider himself to be a pragmatist here, but actually what he's asking us to vote for is just a continuation of the kind of politics we're all sick and tired of. Reinforcing that belief is the narrative put forward by his deputy at the RMT, Eddie Dempsey, who had this to say on the matter of voting for Starmer's Labour.
But Keir Starmer has just dropped the pledge to support the demand to recognise Palestine as a state. My MP is Emily Thornberry. I will not vote for Labour. I'm not going to vote for Labour. Emily Thornberry will not get my vote. She certainly won't get the vote of my partner. And I'll tell you what, if I did think about it, she'd probably have me out on the street. So she will not get a vote from anybody in this house. And I'm of a firm belief that no politician should get a vote from any trade unionist for as long as they're refusing to support an immediate ceasefire and the establishment of a Palestinian state. No ceasefire, no vote. That's the position that we've got to have. They need to understand if they're not prepared to stand up for peace, then we're not going to stand up for them at the ballot box when the time comes to vote. It's got to be that simple.
Well, I think that's pretty clear. He's not going to vote for Labour, Mick, so what do you have to say to that? Does he need to grow up too? Actually, Lynch might well be sending mixed messages here, or rather the fact that he spoke to The Guardian, of all papers, their headline reading, Mick Lynch says voters must grow up and see Starmer is only alternative, being as far as many people commenting on this story on social media have read the headline. Further into the article, if you do read it, Lynch says, I think Labour have got a good chance of getting elected unless they muck it up, really. If you can't defeat this government, we'll never get a Labour government again, I would have thought. So he's got a very good chance of winning. That doesn't mean that we give him carte blanche or a blank cheque to do whatever he likes. So although he does indeed say removing the Tories is his number one priority in the article as well, as much as he is advocating for people to vote for Starmer, it's not completely unconditional. My problem with this remains, though, that by the time you've elected him, it's too late. He's had your vote, he'll do what he likes. And what would you advocate after that then? Stick with him, he's still better than the Tories? Well, the fact is, just like the Tories, Starmer is a shit option. I won't advocate for that when I want change. That requires a change of voting system as much as policy, but also a change of who you put a cross next to. And when only one of two parties, neither of whom will change that system, get in, and you're actually backing us to back one of them, it's not a case of growing up and sticking with that. It's a case of facing reality and realising the only way to get change is to vote for it. And that means people turning away from both the Tories and Labour. But if you want to really talk about mixed messages, Mick, why, as you tell us to grow up and vote for Starmer's Labour, are you also choosing to back Jeremy Corbyn if he chooses to stand as an independent candidate? At the very same War on Want conference that Lynch was a speaker at, that Lynch advocated that we should grow up and vote for Team Keith, he also said the RMT would back Corbyn if he stood for Islington North again. Well, nobody knows if Corbyn will do that at this moment in time, of course. But you can bet your bottom dollar Starmer will be putting a Labour candidate up for Islington North, and more fool them whoever it is if Corbyn does run. Who are you backing as the grown-up option then, Mick? At the end of the day, both the Tories and Labour are both pro-privatisation, pro-vested interests, pro-establishment parties without a tissue paper's thickness of difference between them anymore. Both are anti-trans, genocide-backing, NHS privatising, pro-austerity entities promoting the very politics we've grown sick and tired of over successive decades now, though arguably never more so than over the last 14 years of the Tories. But when Labour now stand for nothing different, that won't end now with Starmer taking over in number 10. It may even get worse. Inferring that we are somehow childish and immature to contemplate that even with the caveats the article discusses doesn't change that. And given there will be more NHS privatisation, more austerity, more support for Israel and its genocide, it isn't pragmatism to support that either. And if that's what maturity looks like to you, seeing those services crumble further, including your railways, which surely you must recognise, you can keep it. A lot of people were thinking you could be the next Bob Crow in your brilliant handling of politicians and mainstream commentary, how you hammer these people, body them, make it look so easy. But sadly it's clear that you aren't, and we need more Bob Crows right now standing against this patheticness we see in our politics, and fewer Sharon Grahams who right now you more closely resemble. For God's sake, Mick, don't go full Sharon. You can push us to back Starmer as much as you like. You can call it the grown-up thing to do all you want. The answer is no. I'd no more back Starmer than I would any other Tory. In fact, Starmer is now so bad, he's been reported to the Privileges Committee over allegations of coercion and blackmail, such as his apparent desperation to get Israel off the hook of accusations of collective punishment. So honestly, Mick, you think backing that is the right thing to do? Not a chance. But you can get all the details of that story here on this video recommendation to watch next, and I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.